There's a person on the internet who wrote 4 words that broke me a little. They said, I'm exactly where I was 20 years ago, not geographically, financially. 20 years of working, 20 years of alarm clocks, commutes, meetings, deadlines, bosses, performance reviews, and they're in the exact same spot in real terms as when they started. That's not a personal failure, that's a design feature. Today I want to talk about something that most people feel deeply but can barely put into words. The system you were born into. The one that told you to study hard, get a job, work your way up, retire comfortably is not neutral. It's not a ladder. It's more like a treadmill with the speed settings locked and the off button hidden somewhere behind a mountain of debt and monthly bills you can't skip. I've got 3 questions I want you to hold on to. 1. Why do productivity gains keep going up while wages stay flat? 2. Why does every escape route from the system require you to already be inside the system to use it? And 3. What do they actually get from you? And what do you actually get back? Keep those in your head. We're going to answer all 3. But first, some history. Let's go back. Before the Industrial Revolution, most people worked too brutally hard. But they worked on land they had some relationship to. A peasant farmer was exploited, absolutely. But they could grow food, they could barter. They had a direct connection between their labor and their survival. Then factories happened, and the deal changed completely. When factories took over, workers lost something fundamental, access to the means of production. You couldn't grow your own food anymore. You couldn't make your own tools. You owned nothing that let you survive independently. So you had exactly one option: sell your time to someone who did own those things. That's not a job. That's a structural dependency, and it was built that way on purpose. Here's the core mechanism, and this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. When you work, you produce value, but you don't get paid for all the value you produce. You get paid enough to keep you alive and coming back tomorrow. Everything above that, the surplus, goes to whoever owns the company. Karl Marx called this surplus value, and economists have spent 150 years either validating it, disputing the framing, or just not mentioning it at dinner parties. Picture your working day split in 2. The first chunk, let's say 4 hours. You're producing value equal to your wage. You're paying yourself back, essentially. The second chunk, that's pure profit for your employer. The wage hides this completely. It looks like a fair exchange, a day's work for a day's pay. But the wage is paid at the end of the day. By then, the surplus already happened. You can't locate where your paid time ends and the free labor begins. That's not a coincidence. Now here's where the data gets brutal. Since the 1970s, worker productivity in the United States has gone up by roughly 60 to 70%. Wages? Up about 12% in real terms, meaning workers are producing vastly more than they were 50 years ago and keeping almost none of the gains. That gap doesn't represent inefficiency. It represents a transfer. Someone got that 50% difference, and it wasn't you. Remember the first question? Why do productivity gains go up while wages stay flat? Here's the answer. Productivity gains don't automatically go to workers. They go to whoever controls the surplus. And there's a second mechanism keeping wages low that most people never hear about. It has a name. Marx called it the Industrial Reserve Army, which sounds dramatic, but it just means unemployed people. A pool of unemployed people competing for your job keeps you from asking for too much. The threat is always there, even when it's never spoken aloud. It gets worse. In the early industrial era, craftsmen had real power because they had knowledge. A skilled machinist knew the whole process. You couldn't just fire him and hire someone off the street. So what did management do? They broke the job into tiny, repetitive steps. Each worker does one thing. Nobody sees the whole picture. The knowledge moves out of the workers and into the machines and the management system. Harry Braverman documented this in 1974 and called it deskilling. It's been accelerating ever since. Frederick Taylor took deskilling and turned it into a science. Time and motion studies. Every movement measured, optimized, standardized. Workers weren't asked how to do their jobs better. They were told. The thinking happens upstairs. The doing happens on the floor. Management owns the conception. You own the execution. And once your role is fully scripted, documented, and optimized, you are replaceable. That was always the point. Chaplin made an entire movie about it in 1936. We laughed, then went back to work. Now, I can already hear the objection. But Clyde, people have washing machines and smartphones now. The middle class exists. Life got better. Yes, it did, and that's real. Nobody's pretending the industrial age didn't produce genuine material improvements. But here's what nobody tells you. Those improvements were fought for tooth and nail by labor movements who had to drag every single concession out of ownership. The 8-hour day, Weekends, child labor laws, workplace safety. None of it was given. All of it was taken. And then, starting in the late 1970s and accelerating through the 80s and 90s, a lot of those gains got quietly dismantled. Union membership in the U.S. went from 35% of the workforce in 1954 to under 10% today. Pension plans replaced by 401ks, meaning the risk of retirement shifted from employers onto you. Job security replaced by at-will employment. Gig economy rebranded precarious labor as flexibility. The language changed. The extraction didn't. Here's the part that genuinely keeps me up. The system doesn't want all of you. It wants your PEAK years, your 20s, 30s, 40s, when your energy is high, your health is good, your mind is sharp. Those years are extracted. You spend them building someone else's asset, their company, their stock price, their legacy. Then, when your productivity starts declining, when health issues creep in, when the 60-hour weeks take their toll, you get managed out, downsized, restructured. The euphemisms are endless. And what do you get at the end? If you're lucky, a retirement. If you started saving early enough, if the market didn't collapse at the wrong moment, if your health held up, if you didn't get laid off at 58 and spend 4 years burning through savings before Social Security kicked in. A lot of ifs. The average American retires with around $87,000 saved. That's not a retirement. That's about 2 years of median expenses. The math was never designed to work for most people. Here's the most disturbing part of this whole thing, and I mean that sincerely. The system doesn't primarily run on force. It runs on consent. Sociologist Michael Burawoy spent years on factory floors studying this. Workers weren't chained to their stations. They were playing a game, hitting quotas, earning bonuses, competing with coworkers, and they found genuine satisfaction in it. The exploitation wasn't hidden from them. They just consented to it because the game felt real, because winning felt good. Sound familiar? Today, the consent machinery is more sophisticated than ever. Your job isn't just a job, it's your identity, your passion, your purpose. Do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. That phrase has done more to suppress wages than any union-busting law ever could. Because if your work is your calling, asking to be paid fairly feels like sacrilege. Billionaires literally tell young people to work 70-hour weeks for national pride, while those same young people can't afford rent, and some of them nod along. Second question I asked at the start, what do they actually get from you, and what do you get back? Here's the honest ledger. They get your peak cognitive years, your physical energy, your creativity, your time with your kids while they're small, your weekends, your health if the job demands it, and the surplus value of everything you produce above your wage. You get enough money to survive, the feeling of purpose, health insurance if you're lucky, and the promise, not the guarantee, of eventual rest. Now, meritocracy. The idea that your outcome is proportional to your effort and talent. It's the foundational story of capitalism, and there's a grain of truth in it. Effort and skill do matter, at the margins. But a 2025 academic review on multi-generational inequality found something uncomfortable. Socioeconomic advantages persist across 3 or more generations far more strongly than conventional models predict. Your grandparents' wealth predicts your wealth better than your own choices do. That's not meritocracy. That's hereditary aristocracy with extra steps. Here's where the mathematics becomes almost cruel. A 2018 academic paper proved, mathematically, not rhetorically, that financial accumulation under active markets produces ever-increasing wealth concentration over time. Not sometimes, always, under any reasonably realistic conditions. Compound interest is magical if you already have capital. If you don't have capital, you're on the other side of that equation, paying interest instead of earning it. Debt and wealth grow by the same mechanism. One of them is growing in your favor. Probably only one. Okay, so far I painted a pretty bleak picture, and I want to be clear, I'm not doing this to depress you. I genuinely believe understanding the mechanism is the first step to not being blindly ground by it. So let's talk about escape, the supposed exits from the system, start a business. Invest aggressively, move somewhere cheap, build passive income, fire, financial independence, retire early. These are real things people do. So why don't they work for most people? Let's actually look at them. Start a business. Great idea. 9 out of 10 fail within 10 years. The ones that survive often require you to work more hours than employment, at least initially, with zero guaranteed income and full personal financial risk. And when they do succeed, congratulations, you now have employees. whose surplus value you are extracting. You didn't escape the system. You switched sides of the ledger, which is fine actually, but let's not pretend it's freedom. It's a different position inside the same structure. What about FIRE? Financial independence, retire early. It's real. People do it. I've read the forums. I've seen the 23-year-old tradesman with a 35,000 Roth IRA planning his entire existence around escaping by his 30s. I've seen the 45-year-old with 1.3 million saved still asking strangers on the internet if it's enough. And here's the thing, those people are the outliers. FIRE requires a high income, extreme frugality, no major health crises, no divorces, no sick parents, and roughly 10 to 20 years of sustained sacrifice. Most people don't have the starting conditions. That's the system working as intended. Third question from the start. Why does every escape route require you to already be inside the system to use it? Because every exit is priced in the system's currency. Want to invest? You need surplus income after survival costs. Want to start a business? You need capital or credit, which requires a credit history, which requires a job. Want to retire to a cheaper country? You still need a lump sum. The system allows escape, but only after it's already had most of your peak years. The toll booth is at the beginning, not the end.